cannabis has kind of a different
trigger for what gives us tingles.
Tonight I am going to be
Doing a video that I have
toyed around with doing for quite some time.
but I've been reluctant to do it because
I expect to lose half of my subscribers.
maybe not actually,
A full half unsubscribing, but
when you reveal
your true feelings to someone,
and if it's not in line,
with what they believe,
a lot of times,
they get upset.
and politics,
Is especially tense now.
and I think that a lot of
What has happened in our society is
technology has made it to where
we have 24-hour news.
and
It's on our phones, it's on our TVs, on our computers.
and everyone is so much more
Knowledgeable about
what is going on in the world and what is going on.
with politics.
Used to we would have had to have read,
Like newspapers.
and it just wasn't something that primarily
Young people did.
but you would see it sometimes
In colleges, you would have
movements, but never anything
on the scale that we have
now as far as political divide.
and how far things are taken.
Um, and so, just because it's so relevant today,
And because I do have opinions on the way things are.
and I don't know if it helps somebody that's confused,
Well, then hopefully they will enjoy it.
and hopefully the rest of you,
Those of you that don't really agree with my views,
I would just ask you to please just know this,
I have a very open mind.
and I change my mind.
I'm not like 100% anything.
I take the topic and I think about the actual topic itself.
Rather than saying I'm on this team. So
What I plan on doing is kind of laying out
what does a Republican believe,
what does a Democrat believe,
and where do I fall on the topic?
and so I think if it will help some people to understand what they are.
Because I think some people just kind of like religion, they just become whatever their parents are.
And so if you're born in a Christian household,
Almost guarantee you're going to be a Christian, or at least say you are.
the same with Muslims.
If you're born in a Muslim household,
You're bound to be a Muslim.
now there are, same with Republican. If you're born into a Republican household,
You're bound to be a Republican, and I'm just talking about the odds.
there certainly are anomalies, and it's not 100% that if you're born in a Christian home, you become a Christian.
I was born in a Christian home, and I was a Christian,
But I lost my faith, along the way.
and a lot of my videos cover topics on religion.
But for the majority's sake, it's primarily
Most people become what their parents were.
that's just the way life is. And there is another topic. There's a book called Faith of the Fatherless.
It's about men
have an abortion.
And nearly all of conservatives, Republicans, do not think abortion should be legal.
And part of what I'm going to tell you about
has to do with the fact that a lot of people struggle.
And I think a lot of our problem in society today
is based on the collision of religion
and politics.
And I'll get into it later when we talk about
It's relative to most of the topics we discussed.
abortion is a good one because
The Democratic side believes a woman should be able to have an abortion up to the time the child is born.
and of course not everybody has the exact same belief, but
Advocates on that side do believe that a woman should have the right to choose what to do.
and most on the Republican side say a woman should not be able to have one ever, not even for rape or incest. They believe the child should be birthed and put up for adoption.
And the Democratic side does not.
My personal stance on abortion is
That a woman should have the right to choose up to a certain point. And my feeling is
that that point is a beating heart.
my life, I would not be pronounced dead as long as my heart was beating.
But if my heart stopped beating, I would be dead.
I could be brain dead and still be alive
Because my heart is still beating.
I could have my arms cut off and in an accident and still my heart beats. I'm alive.
The time I am dead is when I don't have a heartbeat.
And so I feel like before a heartbeat happens, there isn't really life.
It's just cells. And those cells are no different than like just regular
Semen, like if you look at semen under a microscope, it's actually swimming around.
It's alive.
In a sense that it's a cell that's alive, but it's not a human because it doesn't have a beating heart. It's not that type of life. I think life, a cell is living, but it's not alive in the sense of human. I think the heartbeat is a different category,
And at that point, it shouldn't be allowed.
but that's just my personal opinion because I just know that when you see these 7, 8, 9-month abortions,
And they show them like on ultrasounds and what happens to those babies.
and they endure torture. They basically get vacuumed out and torn to pieces, but they wail and they wave their arms and legs and just watch them. You can tell they're just in agony. Now it's brief and it's quick,
But it's aggressive and it's
ugly, and I think that there just is a certain point to where when you're doing that and a woman knows that she's doing that to something that is alive inside of her, I think it does something to them psychologically, knowing the horror that is happening. Now, when you show her what a 2-week-old fetus looks like, the embryo, it doesn't look like anything emotional, and there's nothing really to see. There's no form or shape that would evoke a sense of sympathy. No different than if you looked at semen or saliva under a microscope. You could see organisms in that were moving, but if you smashed it,
it wouldn't evoke a emotional response.
and so I just think it's a compromise. There's no way around it. There
Has to be a compromise. At the end of the day, that's what
our government should do when there are disagreements. Compromises have to be found.
And on this particular one, we've ever since Roe versus Wade
And before, we've just been arguing the stupid point, and
we just need to get it over with and make a damn decision.
there's unwanted humans today. Humans just, if we can stop the suffering early, and it doesn't do anything. Okay, I'm gonna move on because I could just go on and on about it, but that's just my take on abortion. Immigration is one that is ongoing here, and it's a very touchy subject in America. The Democratic side doesn't think we should have a border wall and doesn't believe that we should stop anyone from coming in here that wants to come in here. And the Republican side wants to have strict immigration where people are vetted when they come to the border. They have to come through a legal port of entry. They have to request asylum, and then they have to endure what it takes to become a citizen of this country. And the Democrats don't believe that that should be the way it is, and they want to give a path to citizenship to the people that are not here legally right now, that have found a way to get in. So that's kind of the two sides of the story. So as you go along and you think about which side you're on, that helps you determine what you really are, whether you are a Republican or Democrat, and whether you side with one way or another. Now, on this particular topic, I tend to lean conservative. So on the first one, I was kind of on the Democratic side because I think it should be legal. On the immigration issue, I'm on the conservative side because I do think we should have strict immigration, not to the point that we don't allow people in here, but I want people to be here. I mean, some of my best friends come from immigrant families. Even, if you look back through our history, all of us immigrated here one time in history, our ancestors, unless you're Native American. So, I just think today's day and age, there's just so much wicked in the world, and it's the only way to keep us all safe. Nearly every other country has strict immigration. All these countries people are coming here, they're leaving countries like Mexico. If you got caught sneaking into Mexico, you're in big trouble. I mean, it's going to be a horrible penalty. But yet these people from South America and Mexico, primarily these are the people coming across that border, but you also have Middle Eastern people and African people and Chinese people coming in through those avenues by using Mexican human smugglers to get them in to the country. So it's not just Mexicans and South Americans that are coming through. And please understand, I love everybody. I don't care. I don't judge by color. I don't judge by nationality. I love all people. I hate criminals, and I hate, people that are wicked and evil and greedy, and I hate the sin, not the sinner. And so I truly do. I love everybody. So please know that I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying, as a country, there has to be rules and regulations. Otherwise, things can be really dangerous. And a country has the right to know who is inside of it. And if they don't, it can be very, very dangerous in this world. So for that reason, I think we should have a very secure border. And, but also a welcoming policy to where here, we set out the rules and guidelines. If you want to come here, we want to take people who are in danger in other countries, people who are good people, and we want people to find refuge and a safe haven here in America. But it has to happen the right way. That's my belief. So, again, I hope nobody gets upset with me of his writings. And one thing that he says to people is, know thyself. And so it's important to know who you are. And so I try to, on any topic, I try to really understand what my own personal beliefs are. What do I believe? Like when I hear of a topic that's controversial, or I know people are arguing about, I think, okay, well, what side am I on? What am I, and I what is my beliefs? And I do that by getting information and reading and kind of thinking it through and focusing and dwelling on that topic until I really say, okay, yes, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And so another controversial topic in politics is transgender. Not so much like gay marriage. Gay is not even, it seems both sides are accepting for gays and gay marriage. The Republican stance is that gays should be allowed to be married. And that they should have every right that any other married couple, any other couple in society has. So that used to be a difference because the Republican side used to side with the church, and the Bible makes it very clear that homosexuality is bad. In fact, in Leviticus, God says that if a man is caught lying with another man, he is to be put to death, both of them. But that was Old Testament, so it was a sin punishable by death in the Old Testament if you were caught. But in the New Testament, Jesus came so that we don't have to die for our sins. He died for your sins, but you do still have to ask for forgiveness. It's still a sin. So, because of that point, the conservative side stayed more scriptural. Even though there is separation of church and state, they felt that this is a wicked thing. And for years and years, they were very hardcore against it. Where the Democrats have always, well, in recent history, been more accepting of that side. But it's become so mainstream that both sides now profess the same thing when it comes to gay rights. Transgender is a little bit different in that both parties say that transgenders should have the same rights as far as they can't be discriminated against and they can't be, you can't, it's not like if you caught somebody killing someone, it's not a crime to be transgender. So both sides agree on that. However, the Democrats believe that the transgender person becomes whatever it thinks it is. For example, if a man is dressing up as a woman, the Democrats believe that it is a woman now because it claims to be. And the conservative Republican side says, no, that's not the case. And, for example, one of the first things that Biden did when he got into office was he allowed transgender athletes to play on the team that they claim to be. So if you are a man dressed up as a woman, you can now play on the women's sports teams, and you cannot be asked to not to play. You have to let the man play on the women's sports team. So on this topic, I side with the conservatives because I think for certain transgender people have the right to do whatever they want. This is America. You're free to, if you want to dress up in women's clothes, or you're a woman and you want to wear men's clothes and cut your hair short, you should have the right to do that. I get I think honestly, we are all really sexual beings. I think that we are, there's something native and instinctive in us that is, we have these sex drives, and it's if you think back in our history and how we've evolved and how we've become who we are today, and these civilized humans, mostly civilized humans, it is fascinating to think about tapes and CD players and flat screen TVs, and we go back 100 years before that. We didn't have a telephone, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have indoor running water or toilets that flushed. We had outhouses and pump wells and getting drinking water from rivers and streams. I mean, it was not that long ago. We were living very rustically, and you could go back 1,000 years before that, and it's nearly cavemen, just how we lived. And at any rate, our sexual impulses helped us get to where we are through population and reproducing. But it is a monster, I think, inside of all of us. I think we all see these things and have these impulses, and it's, what do you have to do something with them. You experiment and you do these things, and this is where I think it gets a little dangerous, because the Democrats believe that children should be allowed to have sex reassignment surgery and take puberty blockers and hormone therapy to transition into the identity that they want to be. And I just feel like this is just getting I think it's just getting out of control. I'm really, really nervous about taking things just so far, and it's a little bit frightening. Again, would you call it transphobic? I love everybody, and again, I think people are free to do what they want. But in a society where we are almost pushing this onto people, and bringing it into the forefront. I mean, it's like it used to be like don't ask, don't tell. But now it's so mainstream, like you can't watch TV without hearing something about transphobic people or the trans movement and what's going on. And I don't know. I just, again, I love everybody. I want people to be free to do whatever they want. But I'm just very concerned about, making things really, we can't call a man anymore. And it's scary to me that we have to change our language, and we may not be able to say he and she for very much longer. And, or say the words man and woman. They may become like saying the N-word, and that feels like where this is going. And I'm just like, it almost feels like I'm not living in, it's like I'm living in a strange world. I really don't understand it. So, that's where I'm at. It's foreign to me. I just don't get it. And I just don't know why people can't be happy to just do it. They're free to do it. You can just do whatever you want, dress however you want, love whoever you want, but don't try to change everybody else. Look, I don't want to change you. You can call yourself whatever you want. I don't care, but if you go to the doctor and you pull your pants down and you have a penis, you're a man. That's it. And changing the definition of what a human being man is it's just not right. So that's my belief. I know it's opinionated, but it's just who I am, and I don't know how to fix it. I've tried. I try just respecting everybody, but it's now changing my vocabulary and definitions of words that I learned, and words that make sense. Like my common sense cannot come into focus with this way of living. So I'm gonna look at my list because I made some other things. I'm getting late in the video. I think I may stop because this video is getting long, and what happens is that the longer it is, choosing religion and politics, but I'm just gonna touch on it, and then I could make probably another video just on that topic alone. It's like, imagine that if you're a Christian, imagine that Jesus was in front of you, and you ask Jesus, should abortion be legal? Should a woman have an abortion? What do you think Jesus would say? And obviously we have the separation of church and state. I get that. We shouldn't force religion on people. But we can make decisions based on our morality that comes from our religious beliefs. And so, like, you kind of, like, separation of church and state wasn't because, like, thou shalt not kill is a 10 commandment. We can still make it a law even though it's just a 10 commandment. It's not a law because it's a 10 commandment. It's a law because it's wrong to kill people. And that's the same thing with abortion. Just because it's what Jesus would want doesn't mean that it's a religious decision. So that's one side of it, but there are many Democrats that are Christians, and they have to come to terms with the fact that they are not only saying it's okay to have an abortion, they are advocating and working hard to promote abortions and make sure that women can have them for as long as they want them. And so I think that if you're religious, you have to believe, if you truly believe in your religion, that you're going to face judgment someday. And you're going to have to stand in front of your God, and He's going to say to you, you advocated for abortion rights. What do you think should happen to you? And He will probably show you on probably holograms, and you will just see this heavenly thing, and He will show you the torture and the trauma that endured from those, and you'll have to answer for that. And that's like where I say that people are struggling with coming to terms with things. It's the same with transgender, and how they changed laws to become that. I mean, these politicians who, like Biden, claims to be Catholic, and so does Nancy Pelosi. It's like, I don't know how they come to terms with saying they believe that and then fighting diligently for the rights of people to do those things. And again, I'm not saying, hey, if you want to pass a bill to give people free money, that you can kind of say that's in line with your beliefs, give it to the poor and things like that. I mean, that's fine. But when it comes to these things that are truly, like, even by any religious standard, are wicked acts, that's where it's difficult for people to wrap their hands around kind of what to do. And I'm like, I kind of look at the Democratic side, and because I'm not religious, I don't have those same convictions. Like, I don't worry about facing judgment because I don't believe I will. And if I'm wrong and I do have to face judgment, I know exactly what happens to me. But I'm going to be there with just about everybody else because you're fighting for abortion rights, and you're fighting for, the rights of transgenders to be called women when they're really men. And those types of things are, they're really, it's perilous to people's souls if they believe in that. And so that's why I'm saying people's beliefs are, it matters. It affects their religious standing. And that's, I'm like, look, you're going to live 80 years. Just live it the way your God would want it, just so you can get the prize just in case. Why would you even risk it for this little bit of time on earth or so? People can have abortions or all the other madness that we do that's in conflict with religious beliefs. So, I mean, I believe that if I could convince myself about religion, I would be a great preacher. I would walk the talk. I wouldn't be a hypocrite. I would be doing everything I could to using that for nothing.